It is time for our college football best bets presented by FanDuel. And here comes Danny. He's getting close to the surface again. He's been trying to swim back to 500 as low as, below 400. But here he comes, and he just had his best week of the season. Danny went 25-14 last week. Yeah, get up there. He's up to 483. Look at Danny, boy. Chip had another good week as well. He just doesn't pick as many games, but still 15 games over 500 for Chip Patterson. And he is still above water by quite a ways. We have Danny Kanell and Chip Patterson. Danny's not here. He's coming to us remotely. Danny, I don't know what it is. You're just a second half guy. We'll get to that a little bit later in the program. Great week last week, man.
I'll take it. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I'm glad you pointed out how many more games I picked than Chip, because it's easy to pick a few winners. It's much harder to pick 150 of them. Actually, I mean, we're close to 300 when you combine them. So I'm tasked with a harder job, and I'm going to come back this final weekend. I can't wait.
Chip, we've run the numbers. Danny made 41 more picks this week. We'll get to all of them. He has to go 26-15 this week to get above 500. Can he do it?
Of course he can do it. I mean, of course, as long as he's agreeing with me on all these picks and all these 2-for-1 specials have one pick that's in line with me. So, yeah, let's get it rocking and rolling and see how we do.
All right, let's go. We've got only one game on Thanksgiving in college football. It does involve a top 25 team, and it's a pretty good game. It's Memphis. They're 9-2 against Tulane, 9-2. Tulane is already in the AAC championship game. Outside shot that, you know, if Boise loses or they finish ahead of the Big 12 champion, that they could get a playoff spot. The line is 13.5 here, Danny.
So you mentioned something there. Tulane already locked up in the American Championship game. They do have an outside shot to get into the playoff potentially. I think they're the best group of 5 team, but they don't really need any style points. They just need a win. With that being said, I'm going to take Memphis here. That's a big number. These two teams have been at the top of the American for quite some time. They've had some epic battles. I really like Seth Hennigan, the quarterback from Memphis, 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year. I'm going to take the under as well. Maybe these defenses feeling each other out. A little bit of turkey stuffing left over from the pregame meal. They're not quite as coming out on fire. So give me Memphis, the points, and the under, the total.
They have had some epic battles. They've had some back and forth. They've had some high-scoring battles, because if there's one thing we know about the American Athletic Conference, there ain't no D in the AAC. I'm going to be on the other side of that total. I've got the over here. I could see it getting a little sloppy, and a lot of this is on Memphis, because Memphis is a team with Seth Hennigan that can score with anyone, but that defense can be downright atrocious. So I really, really like the opportunity to jump on the over, especially at that key number of 55.5.
And when talking about playoff chances for Tulane, they're going to be rooting hard against Boise State the rest of the way. And Boise has a game on Friday. That's where we're heading next. Boise's kind of, I don't know, played with their food a little bit the last 3 weeks. They've had some tight games. They've had some slow starts. They're 18.5-point favorites at home against Oregon State, Danny.
Yeah, this is a team, they've been leaking oil. That's the way I've been describing it. Like coming down the stretch, it's just like, and Chip always used the terms, just got to land the plane, right? They're in that sweet spot. Every time we see that bracket up there, they're getting that 4 seed, which is a bye in the playoffs. I think this is the week they get back on track, though. I think they finish out strong. Oregon State, here's my take on Oregon State. I think they're hungover from the Pac-2 championship game that we just saw hassle. They've been celebrating that Pac-2 championship all week. But I do think what does have Boise State going in their favor is that they have been struggling. I think it's the get-right game, coming back home. They get Ashton Genty going, one last push to get him some style points to get potentially that Heisman Trophy, even though I think he's pretty firmly in the runner-up spot. So I'll go ahead and take Boise State. I also think their defense will do a good enough job to keep Oregon State at bay. So I like the under as well.
Yeah, Boise State understands the assignment, and I think that, you know, we go back to that Wyoming game. Ashton Genty gets a little bit banged up, but then all of a sudden he sees his team needs him, and where is he? He's right back in the game, trying to lead them to a victory, trying to score those extra touchdowns. And I agree with Danny. You know, Oregon State is in a reload the musket spot. It is very, very tough to reload a musket. Then they poured it out at home against rival Washington State. For them to turn around on a short week and then be going to Boise and try to go toe-to-toe with one of the best individual players in the country, I don't like their odds here. I'll lay it with the Broncos.
How long does it take to reload a musket, Chip?
Well, it can be a lot of minutes, and that is why it was very, very different back in the day when we were just lining up on both sides of the field.
AI says it takes around 30 seconds to reload a musket. Muskets were slow and difficult to load and were best fired in volleys to hit the enemy. Thank you, Chip, for the history lesson there. Let's go to Oklahoma State and Colorado. The Buffs still ranked, but they need some help if they're going to reach the Big 12 championship game. That does not look likely, but Chip, this is the last opportunity for Shedeur Sanders, for Travis Hunter to play in front of those home fans in Boulder.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to put on a show. I think that this is going to be a spot where Colorado's offense is going to be able to pick on an Oklahoma State defense that, whether it was at the beginning of the season when they were just struggling, the middle of the season, or the end of the season, that defense has always been bad. Now, Oklahoma State offensively has found a way to score some points in recent weeks. They've kind of stripped down to their bare necessities and figured out ways to get it into the end zone. So that's why I'm just going to isolate the Colorado team total over. If Colorado defensively does end up having kind of a sleepy start with this noon Eastern time kickoff out there at Folsom Field in Boulder, maybe Oklahoma State is able to score some points, but ultimately I just don't think that Colorado's offense is going to be limited at all. I do see touchdowns, I do see fireworks, and I do see a Colorado team total over being my best bet.
Give me all the points. I'm with you on the over, but I'm also going to go ahead and lay them with Colorado. You mentioned it. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, could be their last game. Who knows what postseason holds for them? If they're not playing for anything, wouldn't be surprised if both of them bolt for the NFL and start prepping for the NFL draft. But that being said, last opportunity to play at home in Boulder. Miss Peggy, is that her name? Peggy?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. They want to send her out in style. Like she's the 100-year-old sweetheart who's the unofficial mascot, Deion's best friend. It's a great story. They want to put her in a good mood for the offseason, so I think they're going to cover. They're going to score a lot of points. Oklahoma State, I don't know if they do it now, but they might because they make money in college now. They're already planning their trip to Cabo for the offseason. Oklahoma State is checked out. They might put up some points late, which hits the over, but I'm going to lay them with Colorado.
Deion did say this week that he thinks that both those guys, Shedeur and Travis Hunter, will play in a bowl game, but who knows? The matchup, the destination, we'll see on all that. Another game on Friday. It's the Egg Bowl, and Chip, it's the first time since 1962 that either side is favored by more than 20 points. A huge spread here for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I am very concerned for this reason because I don't know yet how to treat Lane Kiffin against Jeff Lebby. You'll remember Mississippi State coach Jeff Lebby was the offensive coordinator under Lane Kiffin, and I do believe them to be good friends. I've been wrong about some of these SEC former coordinator relationships before, but I think that when getting a lot of factors going on, I've got to go back to the well where Ole Miss unders have been an absolute gold mine. So lots of ways to win. Let's say that Lane Kiffin does not want to roll it up on Jeff Lebby. That means that it's probably a call off the dogs, lower scoring game. This thing goes under. Or let's just say that Ole Miss wants to shut out Mississippi State. Well, that is going to contribute to the same unders that have been cashing all season long. Or let's just say that this Ole Miss offense, which really hasn't been a juggernaut at all since non-conference play at the beginning of the season, is a little bit sluggish, even against a Mississippi State defense that's given up points. I just see so many different ways to win that instead of trying to sweat the 26.5 point cover in the third and fourth quarter, let me just go full game under and feel really good about lots of different game scripts getting us to the pay window.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on that under as well. The Ole Miss unders have been absolutely just gold. It's like going to the ATM and printing those. I think it'll be more of the same. Here's the thing I think on Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, and you mentioned the relationship with Jeff Lebby. Has he cared about anybody's feelings? You can have friends all you want. I don't know about you. When I would play friends in high school and at the park, we were playing pickup hoops. One, I talked more trash, and one, I wanted to blow them out so I could keep talking trash for an entire offseason. But most importantly, I don't think Lane Kiffin cares about Levy's feelings as much as he cares about the backers that have been sponsoring him, paying him, and have been a big part of his success at Ole Miss. He wants to make sure that he gets back in the good graces. And one way to doing that, of a season falling short of expectations. Remember, this was a team that was supposed to make the playoffs, and their playoff hopes severely damaged with that loss in Gainesville last weekend. You got to get back in their good graces. No better way to do that than a big win, maybe the biggest win in history by point spread wise, if you go ahead and cover this number, which I think he'll try to do late. Give me Ole Miss. I'll lay the points, and I'm on that under with Chip.
Yeah, and despite those 3 losses, still an outside shot there. They're kind of roaming around last couple out territory, or first couple out, with that ranking there at number 14. Let's go to a team that's already in the SEC championship game. That's the Georgia Bulldogs. They've already clinched that spot to play either Texas or Texas A&M, the winner of that. Facing Georgia Tech here, Chip, on the surface, doesn't look like much, but Georgia Tech's already beaten a couple of top 10 teams this season.
2-0 against top 10 teams this season. I mean, you've got a head coach in Brent Key that just loves to ruin ranked opponents' futures. I think Georgia Tech is frisky in this spot. And the thing that I'm looking at is the way that they switch out their quarterbacks. Because in the win against NC State, we saw Haynes King, as we have for most of the season when he's been healthy, but we also saw true freshman quarterback Aaron Philo. And Aaron Philo led a game-winning drive in the final minutes that finished him with as many total yards of offense by a freshman quarterback in 4 years. You got to go all the way back to Jeff Sims in 2020. I think this Georgia defense in the first half is going to be a little bit on their heels rather than on their toes attacking. I think they're going to be trying to look and see what offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner has in mind. So therefore, I'm going Georgia Tech in the first half plus 10.5. Over the course of 4 quarters, I do think that Georgia should be able to win this thing, and whether or not they cover is probably going to come down to what the backups are doing near the end of the game. But ultimately, I do think that Yellow Jackets in the first half have a chance to really at least get our attention on Friday night for a potential upset.
Hassel, did you say they have wins over 2 top 10 teams? Is that how you set up the stage here?
Yes.
I think, yeah. One of those was Florida State, right? Let's just like, I don't know. At the
time, top 10.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that one holds as much weight now as it did then, but it was a big win. I think Chip and I, both of us kind of looking for something outside the box. I really want to take Georgia Tech and those 19.5 points, but I just don't know where Georgia is. Georgia's clearly the better, more talented team. Rivalry game, what does that have to come into play? So I'm going to tackle a little bit differently too, like Chip is with the first half play. I'm just going to take Georgia Tech's team total over. He mentioned Philo coming in, who's really been a dynamic run threat for them. Haynes King kind of operating the passing aspect of this one. I do think Georgia's offense has at times given up some points, kind of whether it's garbage time or whether in games where they don't really have to be as dominant as they were against Texas and as they were against Tennessee. They get a little bit sloppy. Even last week, they gave up 14 first half points to UMass. So all I need is Georgia Tech to score 16.5 points in 4 quarters. Give me that. I'll take Georgia Tech team total over 16.5.
All right. 4 ranked games on Friday and another one on Thursday. We picked 5 so far. Many more to come here on CBS Sports HQ as we head to Saturday. And Ohio State looking to get over the hump against Michigan. They've lost 3 straight. Wolverines just put up 50 in a conference game last week. Could they pull a stunner? We're picking every ranked college football game against the spread, and let's look at the early games on Saturday. You've got, obviously, the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, but maybe an even bigger game and a better game. Top 15, Death Valley, Clemson, South Carolina, and Clemson, and that could be a potential play-in game. Winner of that game is in play for the college football playoff. We've got Danny Kanell and Chip Patterson here. Let's start with Michigan, Ohio State. Ohio State, guys, needs to win, more than likely, to get a rematch with Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Chip, Michigan scored 50 last week.
Good for them. I mean, you know what? Like, if you're going to flip Bryce Underwood, you might as well go out there and show him that there are pieces of the offense that know how to find the end zone after being so offensively challenged for much of the season. But I think this Ohio State defense might be the best unit on the field for either team. And I don't know how many points Michigan is going to be able to score in this game. But ultimately, when I'm looking at the matchup, I think that Ohio State's offensive line might struggle a little bit about Michigan's defensive defensive front. But we've got to remember what Ohio State has done all daggum year, and that is dominate coming out of the locker room after halftime. I do think Ohio State's probably going to cover this spread. I think that Ohio State could cover this spread with an under, but the best bet, because that's what we're here for, is Ohio State in the third quarter. We get 5.5 as our number right now, so that means we just need 6-0, 7-0, something along those lines, and I think that is absolutely possible because I don't think Michigan's going to score a single third quarter point. Give me Ohio State minus 5.5 in the third quarter.
Ohio State, they don't need this game for the Big Ten championship. They don't need this game to get to the college football playoff. They need to win this game because they've lost it 3 times in a row. And Ryan Day said it's the worst experience outside of losing family members. Like, what are we doing? They absolutely have to win this game. And I think they do. I think this is a game they've had circled all year long. I think they come out. I think they try to run it up. We saw Ryan Day score a meaningless touchdown late in the Indiana game because he said he didn't want to leave any doubt. You don't think he wants to do the same thing and will do that and more against Michigan, considering how bad he's felt walking off the field after this game the last 3 years? I think that's complete domination. I'm going to lay him with Ohio State, and I'm also going to hold Michigan under that team total of 10.5. That seems like it's stealing money. Ohio State's defense held Indiana in check pretty much that whole game. They've been the stronger unit. I think even of the star-studded offense that Ohio State has, the defense has quietly been awesome as well. I think it's complete domination. I'll lay them and take Michigan team total under 10.5 points.
If Michigan were to somehow win that game, that brings Penn State and potentially Indiana in play for the Big Ten championship game, but extremely unlikely. Here's a more likely upset spot. Number 8, Tennessee. Not going to be in the SEC championship game. Danny, all they have to do is beat Vanderbilt, and they're in the college football playoff. But we've seen Vandy do some wild things this season. The line is 10.5 here. It's in Nashville.
We've seen them beat really good teams. We've seen them take Texas to the brink, only losing by 3 at home. It seems really easy. I mean, it almost seems too easy to take Vanderbilt, but I'm going to go ahead and take it. I'm going to take the bait if it is that easy because I am a believer in the best talent evaluator in the business in Barton Simmons, the general manager for the Vanderbilt Commodores, and also maybe slightly more in Diego Pavia, who's been awesome. I am kind of concerned about his health. He's been banged up recently, but again, another player, you listen to what this game means to him and wanting to go out his last game, potentially pending a lawsuit for Vandy. I'd like them to cover this number. I also think this will be a lowering scoring game. So I'm going to take the under too. Tennessee's offense has been up and down. And I think that's one thing where, again, Vanderbilt, we talked about the game with Texas, did get a couple picks off of Quinn Ewers, did hold them to only 27 points. I think they'll hold Vanderbilt's offense in check. I think Tennessee will hold Diego Pavia in check as well. But I think it'll be a lower scoring game overall. So I'm going to go ahead and take Vanderbilt, those points, and the under.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on that under as well. I think about the way that Vanderbilt approached the win against Alabama. We go back, we got all the behind the scenes footage. They wanted to shorten the game. When you're going up against an offense like Tennessee's, I've got to think that that's going to be part of it as well. Try to use some misdirection so that Diego Pavia is not left there against Tennessee's nasty defensive front. Try to give him the opportunity to just, keep the offense on the field, wear Tennessee's defense down, and most importantly, keep Nico Iamaleava away from trying to pick apart a Vanderbilt defense. Depth is a concern. You mentioned Diego Pavia being banged up. There's a lot of injuries that Vanderbilt's taken, which have led to lower scoring games, in my opinion. And I think this will be another one. It's the kind of game Vanderbilt wants to play, and it's the kind of game I think we get, a lower scoring game. So I'm on the under.
Yeah, imagine telling a Tennessee fan, all right, it's right here. You just have to beat Vanderbilt this season, and you're in the college football playoffs. Sounds easy. We'll see how easy it is on Saturday. Let's move on to another in-state showdown that has playoff ramifications. It's number 15 South Carolina. Hot, real hot. Hottest team in the SEC. At number 12, Clemson. Clemson's the first team out right now. South Carolina, the fourth team out, Danny. This could be a play-in game for the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially kind of feels like that. Both of them would absolutely be in the bubble, and they'd probably be the first team considered when you looked at them. Curious to see if South Carolina could jump over 2 teams that it lost to, in Ole Miss and Alabama. But I think it comes down to Clemson is going to play their way in. This rivalry has been lopsided over the last 15 years. I know it hasn't been as of late, but this one is in Death Valley. They will be coming down the hill. They will be rubbing Howard's rock. I think Clemson's defense will have the answers for Lenore Sellers, the quarterback who's been phenomenal for South Carolina. He's really taken over that team. And I also think Cade Klubnik's legs will be the difference, because we know about Kyle Kennard and the defensive line that they've got getting after quarterbacks. But Cade Klubnik is shown to be more mobile as of late than maybe some people expected. He's been playing with a lot more confidence. I think they've got the dud out of their system, that game against Louisville that was there. So I think Clemson gets it done. I think home field plays a huge role in this game, as it has all season long with some of these bigger matchups. So I'll take the home favorite here, lay the 2.5. And I also think both teams' defenses could be on full display. So I'll take the under as well.
Yeah, I don't think Clemson's offense has been right since mid-October. You mentioned the dud against Louisville. I don't think Clemson's offense looked good in the win against Virginia Tech. It was the defense forcing a lot of turnovers, setting up short fields for Clemson's offense. I thought Clemson's offense looked woeful against Pitt, another game that they won. I mean, this is now 3 or 4 performances in a row where they just haven't clicked. They just haven't run the ball effectively. They haven't punched it in the end zone with red zone opportunities. And I think when you've got those kind of deficiencies, when you've got that kind of inefficiency to your offense, it is absolutely the worst possible trait to have against a defense like South Carolina's. Lenore Sellers, on the other hand, is playing the best football of his season right here at the end of the year. And Clemson, with some injury issues at linebacker, I respect Death Valley. I love this rivalry, but I just think that Clemson is not as healthy as it's been and just hasn't been playing as well as it has this season. South Carolina is the exact opposite. As healthy as it's been, playing its best football, I'll take the Gamecocks.
South Carolina's beaten 2 teams that currently ranked in the top 25. Clemson has not beaten a single one. Let's move to Illinois and Northwestern. Illinois is ranked number 23, 7.5-point favorite. Chip mentioned that Michigan put up 50 last week. That was against Northwestern. This game is being played on that lacrosse field on the lake.
Listen, Luke Altmaier might be able to hit this over himself. Luke Altmaier is going to be able to run the score up on Northwestern, because what happened is Illinois' offense got a little bit broken. Like, things went sideways around the Oregon game when they were at Autzen. They came back and they had a bad performance against Minnesota. But ever since they got a chance to hit reset, they've been able to find a whole new level of production. And so I think that this is going to be a spot where that Illinois offense is going to be able to be as productive as Michigan's offense was against a Northwestern defense that is just there for the taking. So I like what I have seen from Illinois these last couple weeks offensively, and so that's why I'm going to be taking Illinois and laying the points.
This is a spite pick for me. This is all it is. It's just a spite play. Tom Fornelli has been trolling me all year long with the season Florida State has. Last year, I was on an under in the Illinois-Rutgers game, and he was just rubbing in my face how that game hit the over. So you know what? This is a spite play. I'm taking Northwestern. Hassel, I think it's actually at Wrigley Field. I don't think it's at the practice field. That's a defensive ballpark. We'll see if that defense shows up. But this is also Northwestern's last opportunity for some of those seniors going out before they go become doctors, lawyers, bankers, and hedge fund managers. They want to put up good performance before they head off to the working world. So I'll go ahead and take Northwestern, those points in the under.
Wait, where did you say the game is taking place?
I think it's at Wrigley, isn't it?
I don't think so. That's not what I saw. Now, what I saw could have been wrong.
You might be right, because I can't keep track where the heck Northern's playing. Northwestern's played at like 8 different stadiums this year, including the practice field. So you might be right.
I read that it was the lacrosse/soccer field on the lake.
Which is better for my under if it is.
I'm sure that'll be nice and warm there with the wind coming off the lake. It's going to be about 25 degrees. Those are the noon games. We've got our CBS game of the week, 3:30 Eastern time, out west, where it should be beautiful weather. Notre Dame looking to wrap up a home playoff game against USC. But, Danny, I mean, the line's 7.5. If they lose this game, I mean, they got to be out, right?
Yes, absolutely. That would be their second loss, and they get a pass, which I'm not even comfortable with them getting a pass for the Northern Illinois loss. But this would be a second loss to a USC team. But yes, I get they're talented and it's a big brand, but I think that would kill their resume. And then it would be, who have you beaten outside of Texas A&M, which even that win doesn't quite hold as much weight towards the end of the season. Now, we have to talk about that game too, so maybe it does. But ultimately, I agree with you. And you know what? I think Notre Dame's going to have their hands full. USC has had a chance to win every single game this season, leading in the fourth quarter. Instead, they've come up short on almost all of those and have fallen way short of expectations. But this is where I do think last game of the year, they've got one sort of chance to salvage the season. I don't think they throw in the towel. And Jaden Maeva has given them a little bit of a spark for the offense. And I think Lincoln Riley will find a way to put up some points against Notre Dame's defense. Even though as good as they've been, I think he'll find a way to put up some points. And USC's defense, I think, is the most athletic they've faced since that A&M team. And Riley Leonard's been good. They've been playing better offensively, but they haven't faced the athletes that they're facing with USC. So I like USC here with the points and maybe potentially the upset, which would be just fitting for the way this college football season has been the last week or two of the season.
USC's offense is the big wild card for me because we've got a Notre Dame defense that has played very well. Its statistical profile is excellent. And I know when I look at that defensive front that they have some real dudes up there that can wreck your offense. But they also took some injuries in the secondary. And so if those USC wide receivers, which are among the best wide receivers that Notre Dame has faced, if they can get in sync with Jaden Maeva, then maybe USC can have the same kind of success offensively that the Trojans had against Penn State when Penn State came to town earlier this season. But I think the one piece of this matchup that I am confident in is that this Notre Dame offense is going to be able to continue to roll. You know, we made such a big deal, myself included, over all the injuries that they had along the offensive line at the beginning of the season. And that group has gelled in a way that they have a nastiness about them. They run the ball effectively. They create space. Riley Leonard, with his dual threat ability, is able to keep defenses on their heels. And I just see Notre Dame being able to go into this matchup and being able to continue to do what they've done for most of the season, and that is put up points. So I've liked the Notre Dame team total over in this spot. With USC being such an unknown to my eye, I think I got to stick with what's comfortable, and that's an old Notre Dame team total over.
Still not as good as that 1912 team, but I learned my lesson never to doubt Danny. You're right. That game is going to be played at Wrigley Field, the Illinois Northwestern game, a place that was built in 1914. I should never doubt Danny. I should never doubt a guy who's on a podcast with Tom Fornelli, who's probably been talking about that game as much as any other game this weekend. Danny and Chip picking games as we continue to move forward here in our college football expert picks on HQ. When we come back, we'll hit some more afternoon games on Saturday. Auburn looking to end Alabama's playoff bid. It thought Oklahoma did that, but apparently not. Back on HQ, Alabama got smoked by Oklahoma last week, an Oklahoma team that was 1-5 in the SEC. Alabama's tied for 6th in the SEC. They're 4-3 in conference play. They've lost to OU, Tennessee, and Vandy. Yet somehow they're still in the playoff discussion. Auburn could really save us a lot of wasted breath if they can knock off the Tide in Tuscaloosa this week. Danny, the line is 11.5.
Yeah, this is one of those games. I'm very curious to see how this unfolds. We saw Nick Saban last week say Jordan Hare had some voodoo magic over it, right? Funny things happen there. And I know this game is in Bryant-Denny, but this rivalry also has some weird things happen in it. I just don't know if Alabama's that good. And Auburn's playing with a ton of confidence right now. They've got nothing to lose, right? The season has been kind of a rebuild year. And Alabama's fallen well short of expectations. If you want to see some bad vibes, go, spend the day in Tuscaloosa and the way things are around that building where they are searching for answers. Jalen Milroe has been proven to be one-dimensional. The offense has been proven to be either him or Ryan Williams. Has been all that has been the story of that season. I think Auburn's defense is able to hold them in check. So I'm going to say that Auburn covers the number, and I do think both defenses will be able to kind of expose the other one because Auburn's offense doesn't strike a lot of fear in you. I think Alabama's defense holds them in check, but I think Alabama probably wins, but I'm going to take Auburn in those points. That's too big a number in this rivalry.
Oh, Alabama's offense should not be trusted, should not be touched. I mean, it is a radioactive material. You need a hazmat suit and rubber gloves just to even get close to it. So I'm instead going to look at Auburn, where a freshman wide receiver named Cam Coleman, blue chip coming out of high school. He's had his 2 best performances of the season in the last 2 games. He has totaled 15 catches for 228 yards and 5 total touchdowns, setting new career highs in against ULM, then breaking those the following week in the win against Texas A&M. And I think that we are going to see this offense have something cooked up for Alabama's defense, which, by the way, just lost its star linebacker and defensive captain Deontay Lawson for the season in that loss to Oklahoma. That's why I'm going to go Auburn team total over 20.5, because I think that the Tigers, with the way this offense has kind of found a groove late in the season, can absolutely get us to 21.
All right, let's move to another game with playoff implications and ACC championship implications. It's number 6 Miami in the Dome up in New York against Syracuse. Danny, the Orange are 10.5-point dogs.
I have been telling all my Miami Hurricanes buddies living in South Florida to watch out for this game, probably for the last 6 weeks. I don't think it happens, though. I think Miami gets it done. I can't, I think it's going to be a fun game. I think maybe at halftime, people are going to be trolling Miami saying, oh, you're going to blow this whole thing. But Cam Ward has been awesome. Even in their loss against Georgia Tech, still had over 370 yards passing, had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Kyle McCord is really good. I think he'll make things interesting. And that's why I do like the over, too, because I think there'll be a bunch of points in this one. Miami's offense has been close to unstoppable. So I think Miami wins and covers. They don't need style points. They're sitting exactly where they need to be. But I just think this is a game they do get. I think they've been told so many times they could lose this game. I think they get it done. Their defense makes it a little bit interesting, but there's too much offense. Give me Miami in the over.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take Cam Ward passing touchdowns over. We're going to take Kyle McCord passing touchdowns over. We're going to take Cam Ward interceptions over. We're going to take Kyle McCord interceptions over. And we are going to take over the total at 67.5. This game in the Dome is going to be an absolute track meet. I think both these teams are going to be able to pick on each other's secondary. I generally lean Danny's way in terms of Miami being able to cover this number, but like he said, it's going to be sweaty through the middle of this game. And so that's why I'm just going to be approaching the total, because I know 67.5, normally that would bring out the too many daggum points, but with these 2 offenses and these 2 defenses, it's not enough daggum points.
If Miami wins, they're in the ACC championship game against SMU. If they lose, then opens the door for Clemson to come in and play in that game. Let's go to Maryland and Penn State. And this is one of those situations, Danny, that we talked about going into the seasons. There's going to be teams that will miss out on the conference championship game, and they're going to be just fine with it. Penn State, all they need to do is win, and they're going to host a playoff game here.
Yeah, this is their tune-up. This is one where they essentially get a bye. Most likely, if ever chalk holds, they'll be able to sit and watch the Big Ten championship, start making plans and selling tickets and planning for what is probably going to be a whiteout, playing at home in a playoff game. I think last week was the chance for an upset, and they almost got beat at Minnesota, but maybe the call of James Franklin's coaching career, the fake punt on their own 34-yard line and convert multiple 4th downs to keep that ball in their possession was magical. I think that's what they needed to kind of wake them up. They're going to go into the offseason go into the bye week with good vibes. I think Penn State wins big. Maryland's had a rough season. I also like the over in this one, too. I think Maryland late could be throwing it around, getting some garbage points. The total's already pretty low at 50.5. I think Penn State has a massive day, putting up big numbers. I'll lay them with Penn State and take the over.
Y'all remember when James Franklin was the coach in waiting at Maryland? Did you know that James Franklin has been covering spreads and running it up on Maryland in recent years? That 50-15 are the kinds of scores that we see when Penn State plays Maryland. Whatever you do, don't bet on Maryland, because everything from this series history has shown us that Penn State is going to be looking to go out and handle its business, win emphatically by 30 points or more. I will lay it with the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, only time they didn't cover was that weird COVID season of 2020 where you can kind of throw a lot of records out the window. Let's go back to the ACC here. SMU's already in the ACC championship game, 13.5-point favorites at home against Cal, Chip.
Yeah, I'm going to go with SMU. I think that they are the most well-rounded team in the ACC. They don't have the highest ceiling, but in terms of their form right now, they seem to know what they do. They're running the ball more effectively. Kevin Jennings still continues to be outstanding. So at an advantageous number of 13.5, I'll lay it against a Cal team that might have just poured it out for that comeback win against Stanford.
Oh, they definitely did. Fernando Mendoza went 98 yards with his boys. I mean, he is feeling this thing. Word has it, I've had pretty good intel that maybe the equipment manager that tracked down the student that stole the helmet, he might be suiting up for the Cal defense if they need a little bit of extra help. Can't confirm it, but I have heard rumors of that. I think Cal comes in here and keeps this inside the number. It's pretty big. SMU just wants to win. Cal's offense has been pretty good. That was a huge confidence builder for them. SMU's offense, I do think, puts up a bunch of points too, so I'm going to take the over, but I do think Cal covers this number.
Okay, to the Big 12 now, and 9 teams as we head into Thanksgiving weekend still somehow alive for the Big 12 championship game, and no team controls their own fate, not even Arizona State. We thought that for a second. We thought Iowa State might as well. That's not the case. Everybody is relying on another result. But, Chip, if Arizona State wins this game at Arizona, they will most likely be in the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, and that's why we're taking Arizona State. We're laying the points because so many of these 256 permutations involve Arizona and Houston winning. No, thank you. I like my fantasy in books and movies, not in my college football. I'll lay it with the Sun Devils.
One of my best plays all season long has been the Big 12 is just wacky. And this is one of them where I see that point spread. It's only 8.5. Arizona State's in the mix for the playoffs, and Arizona's one of the bottom teams in the Big 12. You know what that tells me? Take Arizona in those points. I'll also take the under here. This is just one of those wacky situations where rivalry games, funny things can happen. I think Arizona State ekes it out, but I'm going to take Arizona in the points.
Yeah, you just never know with those rivalry games. Could get funky down there in Tucson. That's a 3:30 Eastern time kick. Let's go to another rivalry game. It's Arkansas and Missouri. And Chip, Missouri's favored by 3.5. I feel like every time I pick against Missouri and the books want you to pick against Missouri, they somehow still end up covering.
Yeah, at home, they are a lot better than they've been on the road. This game is going to be in Columbia, and I do think that Missouri is just in a little bit of a better spot right now. They've had to deal with so many different injuries. They've had so many different highs and lows. But in here, in a rivalry game that might mean more to Missouri than it necessarily means to Arkansas, I feel comfortable laying the short number. I think the Tigers can win their 3rd in a row against Sam Pittman and the Hogs and cover the number.
I thought we were doing picks for the top 25 teams. Oh, that's right. Missouri is a top 25 team, which I still cannot believe when I see that happen. Like, where are the good wins? And I know last week I went against them. I think, Chip, you did too against Mississippi State. We were both on the wrong side of that one. I'm going to double down. You might be making the smart play to get them playing in Como. Arkansas has been a tough out for everybody they've played. I still think they're fighting for Sam Pittman, looking to maybe add one more win to that season. I'm going to take Arkansas. I think this maybe is a 3-point win, but give me that 3 and a hook. I'll take them all day long.
All right, we have a few more games to pick on rivalry weekend, and one of the greatest rivalries in college football is finally back after a 13-year absence, and the winner of A&M against Texas will go to the SEC championship game. All right, we're picking college football games against the spread, and take a look at some of the games that we have yet to pick, but we are going to get to right now, including that Texas A&M game in College Station for the right to play Georgia in the SEC championship. But we're going to start with Purdue and Indiana. And Chip, last week, we were debating, how close does Indiana need to keep this? Now we're wondering, okay, how many points does Indiana need to win by to feel safe that they're going to be in the college football playoff? They need to win by 30 to cover the spread.
Yeah, Chris, I'll take them by 30. I'll take them by 34.5. I'll take them by 37.5, and I'll take them by 39.5. I think this is going to be a disrespectful final as they are back home and they will be exercising some demons. This is a head coach in Curt Cignetti that when they were blowing teams out at the beginning of the season, obviously, as we know from all the strength of schedule hand-wringing, much lesser than teams, he would get furious over missed blocking assignments and a 35-point win. I absolutely think that in a rivalry game, Indiana's going to run it up. I'll take them in the points.
Interesting. I think you're forgetting about what takes place on the final home game of the season when they have no style points. They don't need style points in this game. They just need to win. I mean, I think they win comfortably as well, but you got to get in the walk-ons. You got to get in the seniors. You got to get in everybody, get a chance to play last time at home. For that reason, I think Purdue covers the number. I think it's a 4-touchdown win. I might be sweating it. That's why it's a little bit of a hedge. I'm going to take Purdue's team total under 13.5 points. That feels like stealing because you could have the walk-ons. You could have little brothers out there going to play, and they'll shut down Purdue's offense. So I think Purdue's offense is held in check no matter who's playing. Give me the under 13.5 points for Purdue.
Interesting. So you don't think Indiana needs any sort of style points, just win, and they're going to be in the college football playoff.
As I'll say, well, they can't win 13-10. Like they need to win comfortably, which I think they do, but just not by 29.5.
All right, let's go to the big one. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. I mean, a rivalry that's been dormant for 13 years, Chip, and Texas A&M gets Texas at their place with a chance to go to the SEC championship game.
This is going to be an absolute hornet's nest. I'm concerned about Quinn Ewers' health. I'm concerned about the way that both of these offense can really struggle to run the football. I think Texas's defense is the best of all the units here. Texas A&M offense, defense. I think a full game under is not a bad bet. I think Texas A&M plus the 5.5, not a bad bet. But this ain't not a bad bet segment. This is the best bet segment. And I do think that later into the game, you might have to take some more risks. And when you're not able to run the football, you might have to be more aggressive in the pass game. But early on in a game that we do think is going to be so tight, I love jumping on the first half under 24.5 because Texas is going to want to make sure that Quinn Ewers doesn't take any unnecessary hits. And if they do have to go to Arch Manning, they are definitely going to keep it simple for him early on in that environment. So I really, really like first half under, but generally think it's a close, low-scoring game at the end of the fourth quarter as well.
Yeah, Texas A&M emotionally has to ramp it back up after that devastating loss against Auburn. The good news, they're going to have the 12th man behind them out there at Kyle Field. I think this defense is still really good. They've played some really mobile quarterbacks, which is something that Quinn Ewers is not. So I think with a more of a pocket passer, or even if it's Arch Manning, I think the scene overwhelms him. But Quinn Ewers in the pocket, I think could be a little bit of a sitting duck where he's going to take some pressure. So I think the Aggies keep it close enough with that 5.5. I got a lot at stake in this for my Twitter account because if they don't win the game outright, I'm going to have to log off for a while because about a month ago, I said Texas A&M was the best team in the state of Texas, and a lot of Longhorns did not take kindly to it. Since then, A&M has lost twice, but it's not deterring me from my play. I'll take the Aggies plus 5.5, and I think I wouldn't even be afraid to sprinkle a little bit on the money line playing at Kyle Field. I think they're going to get things going with Marcel Reed.
All right, well, let's go to another big game on Saturday night. Well, guys, we've been having fun with Iowa State all season, and here we go. This is the biggest game in Iowa State history, a chance to clinch their first 10-win season ever. More importantly, if they win this game, it's like a 97% chance that they're in the Big 12 championship game, Danny. They're a 2.5-point favorite against Kansas State, their rival.
I can't do it. Castle's trying to bait me into this. He's trying to get me to just walk over the ledge. What's the scene going to be like? How many people are going to be there? Is it going to be sold out?
It will be sold out. There's a little worry that there could be a few empty seats just because people have made Thanksgiving plans. You know how that is. I'm of the belief, though, that Iowa State fans are going to cost them this game. That they are going to just kind of project their nervous energy and all those decades of losing onto this team, and it's going to cost them the Big 12 championship and a playoff.
Clip that and put it on a hype video right there. Give me Iowa State. I'll take them at home. Again, the Big 12, one of the things I've looked for is those bigger point spreads. Also, home teams have been pretty strong here. I'm going to take Iowa State playing at home. Rocco Becht has a pretty solid performance there. I also think that the defense is what steps up and makes the difference, which is why I like the under too.
Yeah, I'm going to take Kansas State. I think that Kansas State, when they are healthy and when they are playing at their best, are the best team in the Big 12. I think Kansas State's ceiling is higher than Iowa State's, but we've also seen Kansas State's floor in a loss to Houston. But I do think that after losing 2 in a row, the Wildcats have steadied the ship just a little bit. And this is a spot where I think maybe going on the road will be good. It'll get their attention. And I think that when you need a play, I think I actually trust Avery Johnson and the offense to be able to run the football and be able to hit enough explosive plays to go and win the game.
Yeah, a bad matchup for the Iowa State defense against that great rushing attack. Let's go to the #1 team in the land, Oregon against Washington. Oregon's an 18.5-point favorite. Chip, the Ducks are already in the Big Ten championship game, but Dan Lanning has a score to settle, doesn't he?
Oh, you read my mind, because Dan Lanning's done a lot at Oregon, but he has not beat Washington. And he has had some devastating losses to Washington. And as Oregon gets ready for this, I don't think it's a call off the Dogs game. You know, that was something I learned really being right there on the sideline as they were running the score up on Michigan in the Big House. There's a ruthlessness to the way that the Ducks want to handle their business. So I'm going to go with the ruthless Dan Lanning 2-for-1. Oregon first half -10.5. My old Ducks first half play, but I'm going to combine it with a little Oregon -18.5 for the full game.
I like the way you're thinking. I'm on pretty much the same page. I don't have the first half play, but I'm going to lay them with Oregon. Remember the last time we saw this team, it was kind of ugly. There was the confusing fake field goal at the end of the Wisconsin game. That was a game they were favored by 2 touchdowns, eke out a field goal win. Then they had their bye week. This has been a long time they've had to sit and think about that performance. They want to go into the Big Ten championship game with some momentum, not that performance. I think they get it playing at home with a big win.
I got a couple more picks. Let's go rapid fire here. CBS Sports Network, 8 p.m. Eastern Saturday night. Nevada at UNLV. Danny, UNLV wins. They're in the Mountain West championship game against Boise.
And this is a team that I do think could use some style points if they do win against Boise State. A lot of people looking at Tulane as a UNLV. I think they get the style points. I think they put up some big numbers in this one. Watch out for Barry Odom's name to start cropping up in some of these coaching searches that are taken out of some of these vacancies. But I'll lay them with UNLV and take the over.
Nevada's played good teams close. I think they can do it again. They played tight with Boise State. They played tight in a lot of the teams that are the better teams in the Mountain West. So 17.5 might be a little too many. I'll take the Wolfpack, 2 words.
All right, again, that's CBS Sports Network, 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Let's go late night Saturday night, 10:15 Eastern. Houston at BYU. BYU's still in it, Chip, but know this. There's a chance that they are eliminated by the time this game kicks off.
That shouldn't play a factor. Houston just fired its offensive coordinator. I don't think they're going to score many points in this game. It's Provo at night. I know they've taken a loss in this position earlier this season, but Houston ain't Kansas. Give me BYU in the points.
Perfect. We are lock agreement on this one. I'll take BYU as well. I'm glad you said you don't think Houston scores many points, because I'm on the under too.
All right, so those are the games this week, the last week of the regular season in the top 25. That's what we are supposed to be doing, picking ranked teams. But Danny Kanell has a bonus bet this week, and he's been, puffing his chest all over X about Florida State and Florida, because Chip, you go back, what is it now, 30 years, Danny, to the choke at the Doak. Danny Kanell and Florida State down 31-3. Coming all the way back to tie it against Florida, Danny.
Yeah. And I've seen this replay a lot. It's one of my favorite games that I ever played. It's obviously a great memory for us, and I'm trying to channel every bit of good vibes that I can for this Seminole team, which has fallen well short of expectations. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a certain baseball Hall of Famer, which I wasn't aware was a Florida Gator fan. And his name is Chipper Jones, but it's Chipper Larry Jones. And he just better hope for his sake, and every Florida fan for that matter, because This is supposed to be the year they get it back on track, right? All they have to do is go up, and they've been playing with so much momentum. They are just looking awesome, and they're celebrating, and they should, because they got to bowl eligibility, which is phenomenal for them. With that schedule, it's been outstanding. All they have to do is just go into Tallahassee and get the big win. I'm going to say Florida State keeps it close, keeps it inside the number. The defense shuts down DJ Lagway, and Luke Kromenhoek showed a little bit of flashes last week. I know it was Charleston Southern, but that little confidence builder, a little momentum, keeps it close for the Seminoles. Give me Florida State 14.5.
That's all you need to know about this year for Florida State. Danny's bonus bet where he's beating his chest, calling out Chipper Jones. It's not Florida State to win. It's Florida State to cover 14.5 against Florida. Guys, thank you so much. This is always fun picking college football games against the spread. Danny will be flying back in to get down here in studio for the Saturday morning show, which has been great all season long. 9 a.m. Eastern time, leading you up to the early kicks at noon Eastern time on Saturday right here on CBS Sports HQ.